Good morning. It is 7 o'clock in the morning. It's been a while since I've done a garden tour. Last week we had a ton of rain, and it rained almost every day, and for several days it really downpoured. And while I enjoy not having to water my garden, I did notice that the rain really damaged some of my plants. I was watching one of my heirloom tomatoes, and I was so excited about picking it and eating it and having that first, because I've never grown heirlooms before, I never grown this specific variety before. I was really looking forward to being able to eat that, enjoy the fruits of my labor, I guess. But it had so much, we got so much water in such a short amount of time that it was inedible, and it was starting to rot before I even got ripe, so that had to go to the chickens. My garden tour today is going to be real life. I have not weeded. I really don't get out there very often. Haven't watered except for what nature gave us last week. There are things dying. Today's going to be what it is. Gardening is still fun. It's still a place that I can go to get away. It's still a place that I grow food for my family, so it's still good, even though we've had some challenges this year with the rain. I did end up losing all of my zucchini plants to what I think are those vine borers that I talked about in one of my other videos. I replanted 2 of them, and I just haven't gotten around to replanting the 3rd one because I just noticed yesterday that it was really quick. The monster zucchini plant that I filmed a couple weeks ago, now it's shriveled up and sickly, so I haven't replaced that one yet. So it is the end of July. I plan on doing garden tours every week until the end of the growing season. So if you want to follow along for that, please make sure you subscribe. I plan to continue to make some videos through the fall and the winter of some different things. And then you'll be able to watch our journey as we are going to be moving from town into our new property, 10 acres, and see how we kind of do all that. So today is going to be a garden tour and a harvest. I've got lots of things that need picked, some things I've been saving for this video. So let's go. These are the jalapenos. They are a heatless jalapeno, and they are really getting close to being ready. So I'm going to go ahead and pick some. And I've got one more plant over by the tomatoes that is also a jalapeno, so I'll get some of those over there. This is the shishito, and I don't know, I think these are almost ready. I'm gonna just kind of wait because they're still on the smaller side. I know they can turn like a red, just like most peppers do. So I'm just gonna wait and see, since I've never had any experience with these before. I'm excited that the plant lived, because the first round I planted in the garden, after I had my skunk attack, they were all gone. So I'm excited that this one has done really well. I cut green beans here. I don't think I'm gonna harvest any green beans this morning, but I am planning on maybe later doing a review of the green bean seeds that I got from Baker Creek. I've got 7 varieties of green beans in this tiny little town garden, and I have definitely seen a difference in production, disease resistance, and in texture. So I definitely plan on doing a review of those and telling you what my favorite ones are, which ones I'm going to grow next year, and which ones I'm not going to grow next year. The noodle bean trellis is looking awesome. You can see we've got several long noodle beans that I'm going to be picking today. I've heard that they do best like sauteed in some sesame oil and a stir fry. So tonight that's what I'm going to do. I was going to make some, let you guys know how they turn out. I'll show you guys. These were the first two to come on, and these are probably about 18 inches long now. I've left them because I'm going to save the seeds from them. They were the first two to ripen, and I just kind of want to see how big they get. So I'm going to leave these, and I'm going to harvest the rest of them. There they are. I'm sure that's enough for one meal. The sunflower here is looking great. When we had a lot of wind, this sunflower here, not sure how well you can see it, it was knocked over, and I thought it was gone. But what I did is I just sat it back up on its stem, and I used this trellis to support it, and it's still alive. So maybe it's healing itself. I think that's really cool. I thought it was for sure gone. I missed this huge thing. Actually, I'm gonna leave this one too, because I don't know. I think this one got a little bit too big. It's almost 2 feet long. I'm not sure how I missed that. So we'll leave that one too. So we'll have 3 pods at least this year that I can save seeds from, and probably more, because that's who I am as a person. We're coming up to our cucumber trellis. They're really starting to go toward the top. Got some that need to be trained back on the trellis. This side is still definitely much higher than this side. I still need to look and see what kind of varieties they are, because I planted one variety on one side and one on the other, but I can't remember what the names were, but I saved the seed packets. They're also Baker Creek, so I'll let you guys know when I do a seed review what I thought about them. This side here grows much, I guess, spikier cucumbers and more narrow. This side is more of a traditional pickling cucumber, I believe. Yesterday we got about 6 cucumbers off of these 2 trellises, which is the most that we've gotten all year. And they taste great, but they've just been a little wonky. I think because of all the rain, you can see there's some yellowing of the leaves. This week is supposed to be all sunshine and 90 degrees. So I'm not sure how they will do, but we will find out. I've got 3 sunflowers here. They're a little smaller, but I'm not surprised. I planted them later, but also they're in the shade of these monstrous pole beans that I did not know were pole beans until I planted them. So I think they'll do okay. I think they'll just take a little bit longer to get going. And this is also where the zucchinis were that I had to pull. So as you can see, I've got one here and one here. They're still babies. They're looking okay. So hopefully, hopefully we'll get some zucchinis in before the fall hits. And as you can see, there's my tote. I was using that to prop up one of my sick zucchinis, and it didn't help. Speaking of zucchinis, this was my big, healthy, monstrous plant that I boasted about, and it has now succumbed to something. Obviously very sick, dying off. I don't see, oh no, there's vine borer damage at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. Looks like sawdust, and yeah, there's a hole there. There's a hole right there, and you can see where they went in. And so it's just one of those things. If you wanted to, you could really, use chemicals. You could even use some organic pest control methods. I've heard of neem oil and diatomaceous earth, and those things may help, but I've also heard a lot of people say that it's basically just delaying the inevitable. I've not used anything on my plants this year. I just planned to lose some zucchini plants from all the research I've done and from what happened last year with my plants. And so I was prepared for this. Also, you can see These are the eggs of either squash bugs or vine borers. Both of them love zucchini plants and use them to raise their children. At the beginning of the season, I was really good about picking off the eggs and picking off the leaves that were damaged and that had leaves on them, or that had the eggs on them, but time got away from me, and that's okay. I don't feel like I failed. I just planned to have to replace them, and they grow really fast, so hopefully I think it'll be fine. Okay, now over to the tomatoes. Well, this looks like a mess because it is. This plant here actually has quite a bit of tomato hornworm damage, and I don't remember having this issue last year, but you can see how all the leaves have been eaten off this plant. So that's definitely hornworm. I have not found one yet, but I've not been really great at looking either. The plant's still doing okay though, it's still alive. And like I said, all the rain last week has really done a number. I had to go through these plants and really trim off a lot of dead branches and diseased branches, and they're looking slightly better this morning. So we will see how they pull through, or if they pull through. But these are early girl tomatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and pick some of the ripe ones. I would normally wait until these are a little bit more ripe, but this year with the bugs and the rain, I'm a little bit more on the defensive side, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick these. They're mostly ripe, and they'll finish ripening on my counter and be ready to use in the next couple days. Early girls are not my favorite. They're not an heirloom variety, but I wanted to grow them and just kind of see how they do versus the heirloom tomatoes. Hybrids like this are generally more disease resistant and grow much faster, and they're more of a production variety. And you can see how it's basically perfect, like has a couple spots, but it's basically like a perfect shape and it doesn't crack easily. So that's what these were bred for. They weren't necessarily bred for taste, but yeah, I got 3 of these plants and they've done really, really well. So I wanted fresh tomatoes as soon as possible, so I went ahead and grew them. But some of my heirlooms have really grown just as fast, and they've produced just as fast. So I'm really surprised by that, but also not complaining. This is my basil here that is by the, between these 2 tomato plants. It has, I think, started to try to go to seed. I've been harvesting off the tops because you're supposed to pick the flowers off to keep it from going to seed, but I'm not sure if it's just because it's later in the season and it's just kind of what happens. But it's really gotten more of like a woody stem. It's changed its shape and probably its taste a little bit. So I think it's just because it's almost August, and I think that may just be what basil does. Here are Amish paste. What I do like about these is that they are very large. And especially for a paste variety, because I grew 2 paste varieties. I grew Romas and Amish paste. These are 10 times the size of Romas. They're an heirloom. So I can tell that they are more susceptible to cracking, obviously. So this cracking here is from all the rain, probably due to having a thinner skin. And just being more susceptible to all the rain. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick all of these. It's fairly soft, so I think it's about ready. I'm gonna let it finish ripening inside. We'll just cut all this cracking off and it'll be fine to use for making sauce this winter. But yeah, it's really good size, and I'm really happy with the production of these so far. I planted 6 Amish paste seedlings that I got off of a friend. Her little farm is called Good Aura Homestead, and I'll put that up on the screen so that you know how to spell it, and I'll put a link for her farm in the description. She sells seedlings. She has some really cool stuff, so you'll have to check her out. I'm not sure what got into this. Looks like it started out as a crack from the rain, but now it looks like it might be home to a garden friend, so that will go to my chickens. Hi girls. Here. They're not sure. They're not sure what it is. Once one starts at it, the rest of them will go after it. So I'm just gonna go and pick the rest of these orange ones just because, like I said, I'm on the defensive right now. The weather has not been very good. So this one turned out okay. We've got some light cracking on the top, but nothing major, and I think probably because it wasn't as ripe when we got all that rain. These weren't super ripe when it rained. They were still, I would say, more of like a greenish yellow, but we just got so much rain that I don't think there's anything we could have done to prevent some of this damage. And this one's got some good cracking, but I mean, it's not ruined, so I think it'll be fine. That's just the thing with heirlooms. They're just more of a natural plant, and just, you know, it just happens. So this one is my Sweet 100 cherry. I've got 2 of these. Production still looks really good. There is some disease here that needs to come off, and I hope it doesn't spread to the rest of the plant. But we picked a few off of this yesterday, and so far it's doing okay. I believe this is a hybrid variety as well, so it is more disease resistant. And big producer. You can see lots of green tomatoes here. And something I was really bummed about is after all that rain, a lot of the flowers were even shriveling up and dying on some of these plants. But as you can see on this, we've got some flowers that are still going, so I think it's going to keep producing. Now these Roma plants got hit really hard with all the rain. There was a lot of diseased branches, as you can see. Those yellow ones here, they're still pretty bad. I didn't get them all. I think that that's partially because Romas are more of like a bush variety, and they say you're not really supposed to prune this kind, so I didn't prune them much at all, just to kind of see how they would do. And I think that's why they got so diseased, is because the airflow was not good. I've heavily pruned all my other plants until they got away from me, but I think that could have contributed to them not looking as bad as my Romas did the other day. So yeah, I took off a lot of branches. As you can tell, they were yellow and spotted and really bad, just like still some on there that I'll probably take off tonight. It's just the way it is, I guess. So you can tell the difference between the Roma tomato is basically like the size of a cherry tomato compared to the Amish paste. So I'll see at the end of the season what kind of production I get from these 2 plants. But so far I'm not super impressed. These are super tiny, and I'd rather have, you know, like this Amish paste is probably a pound. Get a lot more sauce out of that. This one is a big beef plant, and it is a hybrid, and I haven't pulled any plants off of this one yet. I'm probably gonna wait just a little longer. We don't have any rain in the forecast, so I think they'll be okay to leave. But so far they're looking really nice. I've got lots of big tomatoes on this plant. It's healthy. It doesn't look like the rain bothered it too much. I took a couple branches off of it, but nothing like some of the other ones. So this one here is my Dr. Witchy's plant, and I had a huge, big 1-pounder that I was really watching. I was so excited. It was going to be my first Dr. Witchy's tomato, but that was the one that just was inedible. I didn't even get a chance to taste it, so that one had to go to the chickens. The rest of the plant looks pretty bad. You can see like some darker discoloration on the leaves. all of the flowers have dried up and died. So I don't know if this one's gonna pull through or not. I may only get, you know, the couple of fruits that are left on this plant. This is actually 2 plants in here, and I don't think I'm gonna get a whole lot off of them. I just think it's just one of those things. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick this one because it is almost ready, and I do not want to risk losing this one. So this one's decent sized. Again, it's Dr. Witchy's. It's awfully soft. I think actually it's probably ripe. It's my first year with the yellow tomatoes, so I'm not used to them yet. There's a lot of cat facing on the bottom of this though. This isn't insect damage, basically where 2 tomatoes fuse together, and is really common with heirlooms. It's still edible. I'll still cut it up and eat it. So this may be my first Dr. Witchy's tomato. So this trellis here are the rattlesnake pole beans, and they're slowly growing, to be honest. Spoiler alert, I'm probably not going to grow them again next year. As you can see, like, they were planted the same time as the noodle beans. They're just now about as tall as me or a little more. Compared to this trellis of the noodle beans, they are overtaking it and doing really well. So, but they do produce really pretty beans. They're green with purple stripes, and these 2 look really different. You can see these are both the same kind of bean, but they're really different. So they've been really cool. I think they taste fine. They don't get too stringy, so they're not bad. But they just haven't been very prolific for me. They've also got a lot of insect damage, which they're doing okay with, but just shows me that they're not super tough plants. This one's really pretty. But when you cook them, the color goes away and they just look like green beans. So this sadness here is my sun sugar tomato plant, and it actually isn't doing very well. I've got a couple ripe ones here. These are really, really good. I would say these are the best cherry tomatoes I've ever had. They're orange, really sweet. The plant hasn't gotten very big. It's not got a whole lot of branches to choose from, so kind of stinks for that. But next year I'll definitely grow more of these sun sugar cherries. And these are black cherries. These are actually really good. I've tried these. They've got a kind of a deeper, richer tomato flavor. I think this plant still looks relatively healthy. It's got some dead stuff on it, but it's still got flowers. Still alive. Still doing okay. So these are my Cherokee purple tomatoes. The plant looks okay. It was never super tall, but these big tomatoes here are looking okay. They're still not quite ripe. I'm looking forward to trying these. Never tried those before either. Something I'm really loving are these Black Beauty tomatoes. They are just beautiful and doing pretty well. Really dark purple, black color. So they're not ripe. They're taking a while to get there, but I think they're really cool looking. And so we'll have at least 3. You can see the flowers, have they kind of shriveled up and aren't looking too great. So I don't know if we'll get more than 3 tomatoes, but still excited to try them. And I think in the end it's still been worth it. But you never know, all these plants could bounce back and do totally fine. These giant peppers are called giant Marconi, and I've showed these before. I am gonna go ahead and pick one, mostly because my son cannot stand it. He thinks they're ready and he wants to try one. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick one and we'll try it tonight and see how it tastes. I prefer a sweeter pepper, and I did try it when it was a lot smaller because I was afraid that it was maybe a jalapeno that got mixed in. But it's not. It was a little bit bitter, but that's when they were a lot smaller. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick one of these and try them and see if we want to come out and pick the rest. Here's some more jalapenos. They're a little smaller, so I don't know that I'm going to pick any. I'll go and pick a few. Just a few of the bigger ones. This plant is the only Abe Lincoln tomato plant that I've got, and it's surprisingly looking pretty good. We've got some flowers here at the tops, so I think it's gonna make it. Those are supposed to be a really good variety, big red slicers. Got a couple tomatoes over here that I'm gonna harvest, and I've been patiently waiting on this one to ripen, but as you can see, it has succumbed to the rain damage. This is a Paul Robeson, but I ended up getting 3. It's got pretty deep cracking, so I'm gonna take it inside and see how edible it is. But I think that's still, it's pretty typical for an heirloom still, but you know, with all the rain, I'm not surprised. But this is supposed to be, according to Jess from Roots and Refuge Farm, I'll link her video in the description, that she has a lot of really great garden tours, a lot of gardening tips, and I just really enjoy her videos. But this was titled the best tomato she has ever eaten, this Paul Robeson. So I wanted to give it a try. So thanks, Jess. And got another one here. I need to invest in some snippers. So some cracking here, but not as bad as the first one. Soft. Probably should have picked it a little sooner, I guess. But I do want to come back around here and talk to you about these Franken-Melons that I've talked about in my other videos. So I did a video recently about what these melons are and what I think they are. I forgot that I did plant blue pumpkins last year, and so I just thought of that at the last second, and I thought that that was probably what this was, but I cut inside of it, and I'll link that video down in the description as well, and that way you guys can check it out. But I was pretty excited. I would say I was mostly surprised at what I found on the inside of what these melons are. So we've got one here, we've got a good sized one over here still, and a smaller one over there somewhere. See all this cracking here? This cracking here is just from all the rain. It's not very typical under optimal conditions to see this much cracking, especially in a melon, because they have a much thicker skin than a tomato. I thought maybe we'd gotten like 10 inches of rain, and I had my husband look, and he said it looks like only about 4 inches of rain last week, which doesn't feel like it. It was a lot of rain. Have I said that we got a lot of rain? So now coming back around to the front of the garden, the sun's starting to come up. I've showed you basically the whole in-ground garden. I've still got more stuff around the other side of the house. We've got cabbages. The other day we pulled up all of our onions, so we're going to be preserving those to be able to use over the next couple of weeks to months. And then the other day we did pull up our potatoes from the side yard. And then over there, also on the side yard, we still have some cabbages growing. The green cabbages aren't doing quite so well, but we have some purple cabbages that seem to be coming along with some random Brussels sprout plants that I didn't plant that are there. So that's fun. We'll see if I get some Brussels sprouts. And then we also have some green beans that I planted over there just kind of on a whim after we pulled out our peas. And I've said before, it doesn't get a whole lot of sun over there, so I'm not sure how they're gonna do. So far they don't look like they're growing a whole lot, and they look like they've been a bug buffet. But that's okay, it's all in the name of learning. Still growing food, it's still been a lot of fun to learn. I'm gonna get this stuff in the house and get ready for the day. So thanks for joining me today. Until next time.